All right, let's jump right into this. In a single day back in March, India basically greenlight a defense shopping list so huge it could completely reshape the country's military for years, maybe even decades to come. We are talking about a truly massive push to modernize the armed forces. So just look at that number, 2,38,000 crore rupees. It's a staggering figure. That's the total value of military gear that India's Defense Acquisition Council gave the thumbs up to. Now, just to put that into perspective for everyone, that's roughly 28 billion US dollars. And here's the kicker. This is what makes it so wild. This wasn't some number that added up over a year. This entire amount got the go-ahead on one single day, March 27th, 2024. This easily marks one of the biggest approvals of its kind ever in India's history. So that brings us to the big questions, right? What in the world is on this massive shopping list? And probably more importantly, why does it matter? What does this huge investment really tell us about India's strategy and its role on the world stage? Now, to really grasp the scale here, we've got to zoom out for a second, because this single-day approval, it's actually just one piece of a much larger and, frankly, record-breaking trend. So get this, for the 2025-26 financial year, the grand total for these initial approvals, they're officially called Acceptances of Necessity, or AONs, has now blown past 6.73 lakh crore rupees. That is an all-time high for a single financial year, no question about it. Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. Just look at the comparison on your screen. This financial year versus the last one. We're not talking about a small jump. We're seeing a more than threefold increase in these approvals, from just over 2 lakh crore to nearly 7 lakh crore. This isn't just a step up, it's like hitting the accelerator on India's entire defense modernization plan. So of course, that leads to the big question. Why? Why this sudden, pretty dramatic surge in spending? Well, to answer that, you have to look at the strategic environment, the battlefield that India is preparing for. What's really driving this urgent push to upgrade and expand India's military might? Well, it turns out it's not just one thing. There are a whole bunch of powerful reasons all coming together at once. You see, none of this is happening in a bubble. You've got ongoing border tensions with China. You've got ever-evolving security threats from Pakistan. Then there's the big picture. The whole nature of war is changing. We're talking drones, advanced missiles, and everything being connected. On top of all that, a lot of old Soviet-era gear desperately needs replacing. And all of this is with an eye on being ready for a potential two-front conflict. It all just points to one conclusion: modernize and do it now. Okay, so we've got the why. Now let's get into the fun stuff, the what. What actual gear are we talking about here? For the Army, the Air Force, and the Coast Guard. Let's break it down. We'll kick things off with the Indian Air Force. They're slated to get a pretty big piece of this pie, and it looks like the focus is squarely on boosting their mobility and building a much stronger air defense shield. All right, so we're seeing some really critical upgrades here. 60 new medium transport aircraft are set to replace the old workhorses of the fleet, which is absolutely vital for quickly moving troops and gear to high-altitude border areas. Then you've got more S-400 missile systems to beef up India's air defense, which can knock out threats from 400 kilometers away. And really importantly, you see a push into modern warfare with unmanned combat drones for precision strikes. Okay, let's shift gears over to the Indian Army. How does this massive spend build up their capabilities? Well, the focus seems crystal clear. It's all about more firepower and way better communication and awareness on the battlefield. So the Army's getting the homegrown Danush artillery system for that long-range punch, which is a huge win for the Make in India initiative. They're also getting mobile air defense systems to protect troops on the move, deadlier ammo for their tanks, and these advanced radio systems for secure, high-speed comms. That last one is just essential for a modern, connected battlefield. And this push doesn't stop at the land borders. It extends out to sea as well. There is new equipment planned for the Indian Coast Guard to really lock down security along India's absolutely massive coastline. For the Coast Guard, the big-ticket item here is a new fleet of heavy-duty air cushion vehicles. Hovercrafts. These things are absolutely perfect for high-speed patrols and search and rescue missions across that 7,500-kilometer coastline and all of its island territories. So we've looked at the hardware, the nuts and bolts, but this spending spree, it's about so much more than just shiny new planes and guns. It actually has much, much wider implications for the entire nation. And this really boils it down to three main points. First, and most obviously, it makes the military more ready by plugging some pretty critical gaps. Second, it's a huge economic shot in the arm for India's own defense industry. We're talking both the big public companies and private players. And third, it's a giant leap towards self-reliance, fitting perfectly with that whole Make in India mission. Yeah, this slide right here perfectly captures that strategic pivot. For years, India was importing something like 60 to 70% of its high-tech military gear. The goal now? Flipped that script completely. The aim is to source over 75% of all defense needs from right there at home. And this chart just drives that point home, doesn't it? It's all part of a very clear policy called Atmanirbhar Bharat, or Self-Reliant India. This massive procurement push is basically designed to turn that 75% target from a dream into a reality, creating jobs and building up some serious industrial muscle within the country. But, and this is important, we need to keep some perspective here. This massive approval, it's a huge, huge step, but it's really just the start of what is a very long and very complicated journey. See, this approval, this acceptance of necessity, or AON, is basically the military raising its hand and saying, hey, we critically need this stuff. It's the green light to begin the buying process. It is not the final purchase order. And that process, it's a marathon, not a sprint. After the AON, you've got requests for proposals, extensive and tough trials, hardcore contract negotiations, the whole shebang. Historically, getting from this first step to actually having the equipment delivered can take 4 to 7 years, sometimes even longer. So the real test isn't just approving the money, it's executing this whole long process without major delays. Which really leaves us with this one big final question. India is chasing two massive goals at the exact same time: building a powerful, high-tech military for the 21st century, while also creating a self-reliant defense industry from the ground up. So the question is, can this record-breaking push actually deliver on both of those promises? Well, I guess only time will tell.